I paid off my parents' mortgage. Then they gave my childhood home to my sister. My name is Willow Turner, and at 34, I've mastered the art of smiling through betrayal. That's not a skill they teach you in real estate courses. But in my business, it's almost as valuable as knowing property values in Beverly Hills. For 7 years, I've been one of the top performing agents at Coastal California Properties, closing deals that others considered impossible and turning teardowns into treasures. I've built a reputation for honesty, persistence, and knowing exactly how to spot a home's hidden potential. Ironic, considering I completely missed the rot spreading through the foundation of my own family. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. I grew up in a modest 3-bedroom ranch-style home in Maplewood Heights, a middle-class neighborhood that my parents, Daniel and Eleanor Turner, stretched themselves thin to afford. The house wasn't fancy faded yellow siding, creaky wooden floors, and a kitchen that hadn't been updated since the early 90s, but it was home. It held birthday parties, holiday gatherings, and quiet Sunday mornings when Dad would make his famous chocolate chip pancakes. From my earliest memories, I understood my role in the family. I was the responsible one, the mature one, the one who didn't need as much because I was so independent. My sister Riley, 2 years younger, had a different designation. She was sensitive, artistic, and required special attention. This wasn't just my perception. It was stated so frequently and matter-of-factly that it became our family's unwritten constitution. When Riley had a cold, Mom would stay home from work to care for her. When I had the flu, I got a bottle of Gatorade and instructions to call if my fever went over 102. When Riley wanted ballet lessons, my parents somehow found the money. When I needed a graphing calculator for advanced math, I babysat for 3 weekends to buy it myself. Riley just needs more support, Mom would explain. You're our rock, Willow. You know how to take care of yourself. And I did. By 16, I was working 20 hours a week at the local grocery store while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. Meanwhile, Riley was gifted a cherry red Volkswagen Beetle for her 16th birthday to help with her social anxiety, Dad explained. I drove our family's ancient Honda Civic, with its mysterious rattling noise and the passenger door that sometimes refused to open. College was the same story. I cobbled together scholarships, part-time jobs, and student loans to attend California State University. Riley got a fully funded ride to UCLA, despite her mediocre grades, because she needed the full college experience to find herself. I found myself between shifts at the campus bookstore and late nights studying real estate law. None of this would have mattered. Families are complicated. I get it, except for what happened after I established my career. 5 years ago, when I was 29 and finally gaining traction in real estate, disaster struck. Dad lost his job of 27 years when his company downsized, and Mom was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition that limited her ability to work full-time. Their savings quickly dwindled. Medical bills piled up. The mortgage payments they'd never missed in 25 years suddenly became a monthly mountain they couldn't climb. I remember the phone call clearly. It was a Tuesday evening, and I had just closed on a beachfront property, my biggest commission yet. I was celebrating with a glass of wine on my balcony when Dad called. "Willow," he said, his voice strained in a way I'd never heard before. "I don't know how to ask this, but we're 3 months behind on the mortgage. The bank is talking about foreclosure." My heart sank. The family home. They can't take it. "I've tried everything," he said, his voice breaking. "Your mother doesn't know how bad it is. I can't tell her we might lose the house while she's sick." I didn't hesitate. "I'll help. Send me the details, and I'll take care of it." The next day, I transferred $1,600 to clear their debt and set up automatic payments from my account to cover their $200 monthly mortgage. It was a stretch for me. I had just put a down payment on my own condo, but the thought of my parents losing their home was unthinkable. This is just until you get back on your feet, I told Dad when I explained what I'd done. He hugged me tight. You've always been our rock, Willow. This house will be yours someday. You know that, right? It's not much, but it's paid for with love. Over the next 4 years, I continued paying their mortgage. I also covered major repairs, $8,000 for a new roof, $500 for plumbing issues, $12,000 for a heating system replacement. When property taxes increased, I handled that too. All told, I invested over $160,000 into keeping my childhood home standing and in my parents' names. During this time, Riley graduated from UCLA with an art history degree and bounced between jobs, never staying anywhere longer than 6 months because, as Mom explained, she's still finding her passion. My parents continued to subsidize her apartment in Los Angeles, her car payments, and even her yoga retreat to Bali to help with her stress. I never questioned it. That was our dynamic, and I had accepted it. Then Riley met Ethan Blackwood, the son of a prominent real estate developer. Their whirlwind romance culminated in an engagement after just 4 months. Suddenly, my parents found enough money for a lavish wedding. We've been saving for Riley's special day since she was little, Mom told me. Apparently forgetting I knew the exact state of their finances. I was asked to be maid of honor, a role I accepted with a practiced smile. The wedding planning consumed everyone's attention for months. I even helped find the perfect venue through my industry connections, securing them a significant discount. 2 weeks before the wedding, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off some paperwork they needed to sign for their homeowner's insurance renewal, which I also paid for. As I walked in, I overheard them in the kitchen with Riley and Ethan. So it's official then, Riley's voice, excited and breathless. The house is really ours. All done, Dad replied. We signed the transfer papers yesterday. Consider it our wedding gift to you both. You're too generous, Ethan said. But it's perfect timing with the baby coming. We'll need the space. My blood turned to ice. I stood frozen in the hallway, papers clutched in my hand. Willow doesn't know yet, Mom added in a lowered voice. Let's wait until after the wedding to tell her. You know how practical she is about these things? She'll understand, Riley said dismissively. She has her own place anyway, and it's not like she needs the money. I backed away silently, walked out the front door, got in my car, and drove 5 blocks before pulling over because I couldn't see through my tears. The house I'd been paying for the house that was supposed to be mine someday had been given to Riley without a second thought. I attended the wedding anyway. I gave a heartfelt toast. I danced with distant relatives and made small talk with Ethan's wealthy friends. I even managed to smile in all the photos. Nobody noticed that something had shattered inside me. 3 days after the wedding, I invited my parents to lunch at a quiet restaurant near my office. They arrived looking relaxed and happy, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. This is such a treat, Mom said, settling into her chair. You're always so busy. We hardly get to see you these days. I waited until our drinks arrived before speaking. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. My voice was steady, controlled. Did you give the house to Riley and Ethan? Their faces fell in perfect synchronization. Dad looked down at his water glass, while Mom's smile tightened. We were going to tell you, she began, after they got back from their honeymoon. The house I've been paying the mortgage on for 4 years, I continued. The house I've put over $160,000 into, that house. Dad cleared his throat. Honey, we appreciate everything you've done, more than you know, but legally. It's our house to do with as we please. Legally, I repeated, the word tasting bitter. So when you told me the house would be mine someday, that was just... What a convenient lie to keep the checks coming. That's not fair, Mom interjected. We never asked you to pay our mortgage. You offered. I laughed, a sharp sound that made the couple at the next table glance over. Right, I offered because you were about to lose the house, because Dad called me crying, because you made me believe I was investing in my future. Riley and Ethan need it more, Mom said, her chin lifting defiantly. They're starting a family, you're single, successful, you have your condo, and that little vacation house by the lake. That little vacation house that I bought myself, with no help from anyone, I corrected her. And being single doesn't mean I deserve less consideration than Riley. Dad reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Willow, please try to understand. Riley has always needed more support. You're stronger, more independent. I'm independent because I had to be, I said, my voice finally cracking. Because from day one, Riley got everything, and I got whatever was left over. Because I was trained to take care of myself while you bent over backwards to take care of her. That's not true, Mom protested, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. It is true, I insisted. Riley got dance lessons. I got told we couldn't afford extracurriculars. Riley got a new car. I got the family hand-me-down. Riley got her college fully funded. I worked 3 jobs to pay my tuition. And now, Riley gets the house I've been paying for. Tell me again how that's fair. The silence that followed was deafening. A waiter approached, sensed the tension, and wisely retreated. We love you both equally, Dad finally said, his voice small. No, I replied, gathering my purse. You don't, and I've finally stopped pretending otherwise. I stood, leaving my untouched water on the table. Effective immediately, I'm no longer paying your mortgage, or rather, Riley and Ethan's mortgage. I've already called the bank to remove my auto payments. I'm also not covering any more repairs, property taxes, or insurance. You've made your choice very clear. Willow, wait, Dad called as I walked away. Let's talk about this. I paused, turned back. There's nothing left to say, except this: don't call me when the roof leaks or the plumbing backs up. Call your daughter the one you actually value. As I walked out of the restaurant, I felt simultaneously lighter and hollowed out. 29 years of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who would understand and make sacrifices, all of it condensed into one breathtaking betrayal. I didn't hear from my parents for 2 weeks after that conversation. No calls, no texts, not even an email. It stung. But it also confirmed what I'd finally allowed myself to see. I was only valuable to them when I was useful. What I didn't expect was what happened next. It was a crisp Saturday morning in October when my doorbell rang. I was in the middle of reviewing contracts for an upcoming closing, still in my pajamas with a cup of coffee at my side. Through the peephole, I saw my parents standing on my doorstep, suitcases at their feet. For a moment, I considered not answering, but curiosity won out. I opened the door just enough to speak through the gap. What are you doing here? Mom attempted a smile. Surprise. We thought we'd come stay with you for a while. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. Stay with me, why? Dad shifted uncomfortably. Well, with the house transfer to Riley and Ethan finalized, we need to be out by the end of the month. We figured we'd stay with you until we find something permanent. The audacity was so breathtaking that I actually laughed. Let me get this straight. You gave away the house I've been paying for, didn't tell me about it, and now you expect to move in with me? Just temporarily, Mom clarified, as if that made it better. We thought maybe we could use your lake house. It's just sitting empty most of the time anyway. The lake house, my sanctuary, the small but beautiful property I'd purchased entirely on my own 3 years ago. My one indulgence after years of saving and working 60-hour weeks. The place I went to decompress, to remember who I was outside of everyone's expectations. No, I said. The word coming out with such force that both my parents took a step back. Absolutely not. Willow, Dad began, his tone slipping into the one he used when he thought I was being unreasonable. We're your parents. We need your help. Like I needed yours, I asked. Like I needed you to acknowledge my sacrifices instead of taking them for granted. Like I needed you to honor your word about the house. You're being selfish, Mom snapped. Riley needs the house for her family. What do you need the lake house for? It's just you. Something inside me, something that had been bending and stretching for years, finally broke clean. Yes, it's just me. It's always been just me. Handling everything on my own because that was the role assigned to me from childhood. But here's what you don't understand. Just me is enough. Just me deserves consideration. Just me is done being your backup plan. I stepped back, preparing to close the door. The lake house is mine. My name is on the deed. My money paid for it. And unlike you, I don't give away what isn't mine to give. I suggest you call Riley and ask if you can stay in the house you so generously handed over the house I kept from foreclosure. Or better yet, ask Ethan's wealthy family for help. I'm sure they'd be delighted to assist their son's in-laws. You can't just shut us out, Mom protested, her voice rising. We're family. Family doesn't betray each other, I replied calmly. Family doesn't take advantage. Family doesn't play favorites for decades and then act surprised when there are consequences. Dad's face had gone pale. Willow, please. We didn't think. That's the problem. I cut him off. You didn't think about me at all. I closed the door, turned the deadbolt, and leaned against it, listening to their muffled conversation on the other side. After a few minutes, I heard them wheeling their suitcases away, followed by the sound of a car starting. I sank to the floor, wrapping my arms around my knees, and let myself cry for everything I'd lost, not just the house, but the illusion that my sacrifices had ever been truly valued. That evening, the texts and calls began, not from my parents, but from Riley. How could you turn Mom and Dad away? Her first message read. They have nowhere to go. I didn't respond. They're staying in a motel right now because of you, came the next text. After everything they've done for us. I blocked her number. Then came the flying monkeys' aunts, uncles, family friends, all reaching out to tell me how disappointed they were in my behavior. How family should stick together. How I needed to be the bigger person. I crafted a single response and sent it to everyone who contacted me. For those concerned about my parents' housing situation, please know that I paid their mortgage for 4 years, $105, $600. Covered major repairs, $25, $500. Paid their property taxes, $18,000. And handled homeowners insurance, $12,000. In total, I invested over $160,000 to keep them in their home. They then gave that home to my sister without my knowledge or consent, despite repeatedly assuring me it would eventually be mine. They have now asked to move into my lake house, which I purchased independently. I have declined. This is not a request for opinions or advice, merely an explanation to correct any misinformation you may have received. I will not be discussing this matter further. The messages slowed, then stopped. In their place came a deafening silence. 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected email from a name I didn't recognize: Ethan Blackwood, Riley's husband. The subject line read, "We need to talk." Curious despite myself, I opened it. Willow, I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing because there are some things you should know. When Riley and I accepted the house as a wedding gift, we were told that your parents owned it free and clear. I've since discovered this wasn't entirely accurate. I've also learned about your substantial financial contributions over the years, which no one mentioned to me. I believe we should discuss this situation face to face. Would you be willing to meet Ethan? I stared at the screen, torn between suspicion and curiosity. After mulling it over for a day, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near my office. Ethan arrived precisely on time, dressed in the understated business casual that only the truly wealthy can pull off with such ease. He carried a leather portfolio and looked significantly more stressed than he had at the wedding. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, taking the seat across from me. "I know things are complicated right now." "That's one word for it," I replied. "What did you want to discuss?" He opened his portfolio and removed several documents. After we returned from our honeymoon, I had my lawyer review the house transfer paperwork as part of updating our assets. He discovered some concerning issues. "Like what?" I asked, keeping my expression neutral. "Like the fact that the mortgage was being paid from your personal account until very recently. Like the numerous home equity loans your parents took out against the property over the years. Like the fact that they owe back taxes from before you started covering the payments." He spread the papers on the table. "Did you know about any of this?" I felt a cold wave of shock wash over me. The back taxes? No. The home equity loans? Definitely not. I knew I was paying the mortgage, obviously. Ethan nodded, his expression grim. "According to my lawyer, there's over $95,000 in undisclosed debt attached to the property, not including the remaining mortgage balance. When confronted, your parents admitted they used the home equity loans to pay for various expenses over the years." "Let me guess," I said bitterly. "Riley's education, her car, her apartment subsidies." He hesitated, then nodded. "Among other things. Yes." I leaned back in my chair, a strange laughter bubbling up inside me. So not only did they give away the house I was paying for, but they also gave away a house drowning in debt they never told me about. Debt they incurred to financially support Riley. That's almost poetically perfect. Ethan looked uncomfortable. "There's more. They also told us they had nowhere to go because you were refusing to help them. They didn't mention that they'd asked to move into your lake house, or that you'd been supporting them financially for years." "Of course they didn't," I muttered. "That wouldn't fit the narrative of ungrateful daughter abandons helpless parents." "Riley was devastated when I showed her the financial records," Ethan continued. "She had no idea you were paying the mortgage all this time. She thought I was being paranoid when I insisted on reviewing everything." I studied his face, looking for signs of deception and finding none. "What do you want from me, Ethan? Why are you telling me this?" He straightened the papers and returned them to his portfolio. "Two reasons. First, as a matter of principle, I believe you deserve to know the truth. Second, I'd like to make you an offer." This was unexpected. "What kind of offer?" "I want to buy your interest in the house. Reimburse you for every dollar you've put into it over the years, plus interest." I stared at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. "And because I don't want to start my marriage with this kind of ethical cloud hanging over it. Riley and I are expecting a child, and I want our family to begin on honest ground." I considered his words carefully. "And if I decline, if I decide to pursue legal action instead?" "You'd probably win," he acknowledged. "My lawyer says you have a strong case for a constructive trust based on your contributions and your parents' representations to you. But it would take years, cost a fortune in legal fees, and tear your family apart even further." He was right, and we both knew it. "I need to think about this." "Of course." He slid a business card across the table. "Take all the time you need, whatever you decide. I respect your position." As Ethan stood to leave, he paused. "For what it's worth, I think the way you've been treated is inexcusable. If Riley and I are fortunate enough to have more than one child someday, I'll make damn sure we never play favorites the way your parents did." After he left, I sat alone in the coffee shop for nearly an hour, turning over everything I'd learned. The betrayal ran even deeper than I'd initially thought. But strangely, knowing the full extent of it made me feel oddly empowered. The fog of gaslighting had lifted, revealing the stark reality I wasn't crazy or selfish for feeling mistreated. The evidence was right there in black and white. That night, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I called my father. Willow. His voice was hesitant, surprised. I didn't expect to hear from you. I met with Ethan today, I said without preamble. He showed me some interesting financial records about the house. The silence on the other end told me everything. When were you planning to tell me about the home equity loans or the back taxes? Or the fact that you gave Riley and Ethan a house that's effectively underwater? Willow, it's complicated. No, Dad, it's actually very simple. You lied to me, repeatedly. You used me as your personal ATM while funneling money to Riley. You promised me something you'd already leveraged to the hilt, and then you acted shocked when I wouldn't let you take over my lake house too. His breathing was heavy on the other end of the line. I never meant for things to turn out this way. But they did, I said. And now we all have to live with the consequences. What are you going to do? He asked, his voice small. I'm considering Ethan's offer to buy out my interest in the house. He told you about that. Dad sounded surprised again. Yes, unlike some people. He believes in transparency. I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. Will you take it? I thought about it for a moment. I haven't decided, but here's what I do know. I'm done being the family doormat. I'm done sacrificing without acknowledgement. I'm done accepting scraps of attention while Riley gets the feast. We love you, Willow, he said, his voice cracking. We've always loved you. Love without respect isn't love, I replied. It's just emotional manipulation. I deserved better from you. Both of you. When I hung up, I felt something shift inside me, not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps the first step toward healing. The truth was finally out, and with it came the possibility of rebuilding my life on more honest ground. 2 days later, I made my decision. I called Ethan and accepted his offer. With one condition, I wanted my parents to be present when we signed the papers. 1 week later, we all gathered in a conference room at my lawyer's office. Me, Ethan, Riley showing the first signs of pregnancy, and my parents, who looked smaller and older than I remembered. My lawyer, a razor-sharp woman named Stephanie who specialized in real estate disputes, had prepared all the necessary documents. She explained the terms in clear, unmistakable language. Ethan would pay me $175,000, the $160,000 I'd invested, plus interest in exchange for me relinquishing any claim to the property. Before we proceed, Stephanie said, Ms. Turner has a statement she'd like to make. All eyes turned to me. I want to be very clear about something, I began, my voice steady. I'm not signing these papers because I believe what happened was right or fair. I'm signing them because I'm choosing to release myself from this toxic dynamic. I'm choosing my peace over prolonged conflict. I looked directly at my parents. For 29 years, I accepted the role assigned to me, the responsible one, the strong one, the one who needed less. I believed that if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, proved myself worthy enough, you would eventually see me. But now I understand that will never happen, because the problem was never me, it was the uneven foundation this family was built on. Riley's eyes had filled with tears. My mother looked away. My father met my gaze, his own eyes reflecting a complex mix of shame and sorrow. Going forward, I will be enforcing strict boundaries. I will not provide financial support. I will not be the family fixer. I will not accept being treated as less deserving than Riley. If any of you want a relationship with me, it will be on new terms that include respect, honesty, and equality. Stephanie pushed the documents forward. One by one, we signed. When it was done, she collected the papers and nodded to me. It's finished. As we prepared to leave, Riley approached me hesitantly. Willow, I didn't know. About the money. About the promises they made you. I swear I didn't know. I studied my sister's face, the face that had always gotten everything it wanted. I believe you, But that doesn't change the fact that you never questioned why things always worked out in your favor. You never wondered why I was working 3 jobs in college while you lived in a nice apartment our parents paid for. You accepted your privilege without a second thought. I want to fix this, she said, her hand unconsciously moving to rest on her barely showing pregnancy. I don't want my child to grow up in a family divided like this. That's up to you, I replied. All of you. I've spent my entire life accommodating everyone else's needs and wants. I'm done with that now. The next move is yours. As I walked out of the office, Ethan fell into step beside me. That was impressive, he said quietly, standing your ground like that. I gave him a small smile. Turns out I'm good at establishing property boundaries. It's kind of my job, he laughed, a genuine sound that momentarily lightened the weight of the day. If you ever decide to change brokerages, my family's company could use someone with your integrity. I'll keep that in mind, I said, surprisingly touched by the gesture. Outside, the California sun was bright and cleansing. I took a deep breath, feeling truly free for the first time in years. The money from Ethan would be transferred to my account within 24 hours, not a fortune, but a tangible acknowledgement of what had been taken from me. More valuable than the money, though, was the reclamation of my self-worth. 2 months later, I received a handwritten letter from my father. Inside was a heartfelt apology, not an excuse or justification, but a genuine recognition of the harm he'd caused. He acknowledged the favoritism, the financial exploitation, the broken promises. He asked if we could meet, just the two of us, to begin rebuilding what had been broken. I considered it for several days before responding. The wound was still fresh, the trust still shattered, but there was a part of me, a small, hopeful part that wanted to believe in the possibility of change. I agreed to meet him for coffee the following weekend. Our conversation was awkward, painful, and more honest than any we'd ever had. He didn't ask for money or favors. He didn't try to minimize what had happened. He simply listened as I explained how it felt to be the perpetual afterthought in my own family. I failed you, he said finally, his voice rough with emotion. I got so caught up in Riley's needs that I convinced myself you didn't have any. I took advantage of your strength instead of nurturing it. I can't undo that, but I want to do better going forward if you'll let me. It wasn't an immediate fix. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend overnight. But it was a beginning. My mother was slower to come around. Her pride kept her defensive, unwilling to fully acknowledge her role in the dynamic. But as Riley's pregnancy progressed and her marriage to Ethan revealed its own challenges, he expected her to actually work, to contribute, to be an equal partner rather than a perpetual princess. Cracks began to appear in my mother's denial. As for me, I continued building my real estate empire, one property at a time. I redecorated my lake house, making it fully mine in a way it hadn't been before. I dated when I wanted to, stayed single when I didn't, and cultivated friendships with people who valued me for exactly who I was. The money from Ethan didn't sit idle. I invested it in a small apartment building, my first multi-unit property. When it turned a profit faster than projected, I bought another, then another. Within a year, I had a modest but growing portfolio that generated steady passive income. Ironically, it was this success that finally seemed to open my mother's eyes. When she saw me featured in a local business publication as a rising star in real estate investment, something shifted in her perception. She called me, awkward but making an effort. I saw the article about your properties, she said. I had no idea you'd accomplished so much. There's a lot you don't know about me, Mom, I replied, not unkindly. You never really looked. A pause. Then, I'd like to change that, if you're willing. We're still working on it, all of us. Some days are better than others. Some wounds may never fully heal, but I've learned something valuable through this painful journey. My worth isn't determined by how much I give or sacrifice. It isn't measured against my sister's needs or validated by my parents' recognition. My worth is inherent. My boundaries are necessary. And my story, painful as parts of it have been, is still being written, not by others' expectations, but by my own hand. The family home that once represented everything I'd lost has become a symbol of what I've gained: clarity, self-respect, and the courage to say no, even to those I love. It wasn't the inheritance I expected, but perhaps it was the one I needed most.